Welcome to the Awkward Black Girl Web Show. It's not a podcast because we have too many of those. Hosted by me, Daria. Hi, this is the Awkward Black Girl Web Show. It's not a podcast because we have too many of those, and I want to force you to see my gorgeous face. I'm Daria, your residential Awkward Black Girl, and I am the host of the Awkward Black Girl Web Show. You may be like, okay, but I still don't understand why it's a web show. Well, let me tell you. First of all, visual elements. It's giving a la The Amanda Show, a la iCarly, except way lower budget, and I'm way too old to be doing this. Also, I might have in some of my friends because, as you can guess, I'm also friends with other awkward black girls. How else do you think I survived in this world? By befriending white people? But before we actually get into me just rambling about forever and nothing, we gotta do a glossary of sorts. You know, we have to put this all into context. I'm a computer right here. First of all, the awkward black girl was not trademarked by me. It was not trademarked by me. I am not the OG awkward black girl on the internet. You know who is? Issa Rae. If you're real, you already knew that. If you're not real, why are you here? Realize. You have to watch The Misadventure of the Awkward Black Girl here on YouTube. 2 seasons is a web series by Issa Rae. It is like the prerequisite to Insecure. So Insecure is based off of that web show, right? So if you watch Insecure without watching the Awkward Black Girl web series, did a disservice to Miss Issa Rae herself. She is the original Awkward Black Girl. But the reason why I identify as the awkward black girl is because of Issa Rae. There's actually a whole story behind that. We're going to get into that later. You may wonder what even classifies as an awkward black girl. Like, what is that? What makes it different from any other black girl? First, we have to get rid of some common misconceptions. An awkward black girl are not snow-loving black girls who live in the burbs and don't know any other black people besides their parents, okay? That's not what an awkward black girl is. Let's look at the Dictionary of Daria's approved definition. A black girl who expresses her black self in unconventional and atypical ways. Doing so unapologetically after much overthinking, however. Due to their lack of adherence to social norms imposed on them due to their blackness and womanhood, while simultaneously trying to understand them or stick to the script, they often find themselves in socially awkward situations, i.e. the awkward black girl. Here are some key characteristics. If you're watching this and you're like, am I an awkward black girl? I feel like I am, but I'm not sure. Here are key points, okay? Have an unusual, uncommon sense of style. Participating in largely non-black or uncommon hobbies or careers for black people like theater and badminton. Being a true lover of literature and writing. Can you hear that? Yeah. True lover of literature and writing. We're going to talk about why these books are here later in the show. A radical leftist. You can't be conservative and be an awkward black girl. That is an oxymoron to the identity in itself. And if you are conservative and you think you're an awkward black girl, you're not. You're whitewashed. Big difference. All right. A thought daughter. That point and the last point go hand in hand. Also is a tangent of being a lover of literature and writing. Okay, a lack of care for social norms or being completely unaware of them. This kind of goes into my next point. Neurodivergence or general depression/anxiety. Yeah. I had to say the most obvious part eventually. My neurodivergent baddies. This is a show for you. I see you. I hear you. Lacking dating experience in adolescent and teen years. Being overly shy or overly loud or a combination. It's possible. I would know. Always wearing natural hair, braids, or synthetic wigs, at least in the beginning. Usually with color. This is oddly specific, but anybody who really peep game, you know on my point. One alternative music artist they don't play about. A general overthinker, and you have a mom who doesn't get it. Sorry to my mom, she don't get it. Actually, She's the reason why I identify as the awkward black girl, but a part of that also comes from her not getting it. I do have some official members of TABGA, the Awkward Black Girl Association. There are already some initiated official members. Obviously, myself, head bitch. All right, but the founder is Issa Rae. We know this. Okay, but we have some other members such as SZA, Ayo Edebiri, Keke Palmer, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Kendrick Lamar. Now, see, we don't have a separate association for men yet. Okay, Quinta Brunson and Doechii. You may be wondering, why am I even doing this? We already have some awkward black girl material out there, like the Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl, Insecure. Well, I feel like we need more. How about that? We need more. Because, honestly, I've been craving media that gives me what the Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl gave me when I was in high school. And it don't exist. Black girls aren't allowed to be anything but black. In a lot of our media, we're not allowed to be anything but stereotypes, and sometimes occasionally when they want to spice it up, date a white man and be like intellectual, sometimes failing a paper back test, and that's when they're pushing it. They're like, oh my god, dark skin, she's dating a white man, she's smart, we didn't know that was possible. That's all you get, babe. Like, we're the fun ghetto side character. Sometimes we're the smart friend. Sometimes we're the one who dates the white boy for development. Sometimes we're the quintessential dark skin. But we're never anything more like a complexity of a character, you know? So that's why I really created this. But here's my like PR stance, okay? I always felt like I was not like the other girls, but not like in a pick-me way, right? And like, I always had a really hard time articulating why I felt different as a black girl, because people would be like, well, you're black, so like, what do you mean? And I come from a very stereotypically black background, coming from like in a more impoverished area. I'm from South Louisiana, so like, you would think I would like heavily feel like I'm just like any other normal black girl, and I do in a sense, and I heavily identify with my black identity, but there was just always something that was like a disconnect or felt different for me, and I never could figure out what it was, right? And most representation of awkward or weird girls are white girls. I never really felt seen, and I never really could articulate my specific teenage experience. The moment I felt seen was when I discovered the Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl by Issa Rae. And I remember like being 15 when my mom had introduced it to me, and I went home from school that day, and I literally binge watched the 2 seasons on YouTube that night, and it's the only thing I would talk about for months. Even to this day, it's like a if you know you know type of thing. Like, I know I found my people if they know what that is. After watching that, I just felt like maybe being the awkward black girl wasn't this thing I needed to be ashamed of anymore. It was something that was kind of like a funny quirk about myself that just made me who I am. Unfortunately, like I said, there's no media like that that's come out since Issa Rae's done it. Like, we losing recipes, and the recipes barely been wrote to begin with. So I don't know, I just feel like I need to do my part. Okay, so your mom introduced this to you in high school, but why'd she do that? You may think, well, maybe it was just like some casual little conversation, baby. Casual was not a thing to me in high school. Why? Because I was awkward. So every interaction had some level of importance, because I typically fucked it up by being awkward. So let's get into that faithful day where I discovered what being an awkward black girl is. I'm 15, right? I go to a school in the burbs. My mom moved me to the burbs when I was 9 years old. I live in suburbia, Texas, where I'm a super minority here. All right, that's important context. That is very important context. Okay. In English, in my honors English class in sophomore year of high school, I had a crush on this white boy who kind of looked like a serial killer. He was infamously called Saltine. Why Saltine? Well, I couldn't call him a cracker, even though that's what he is, because it felt a little harsh. So I called him a Saltine, because a Saltine is what? A cracker. I literally ate that nickname up so bad that till this day, even people I haven't talked to in years still remember who Saltine is. I had slim pickings of who I could have a crush on, why did I like this little serial killer looking white boy? Well, he was there and Eastern European, so you know he looked a little different. He wasn't like blonde hair, blue eyed. That was never my type, really, for real. Well, let's not get into that. So I was like, he's a little different. He Eastern European. Usually they're a little bit more progressive than your other typical whites. I also was in theater at the time, and I already was in an honors English class, which I was an honors AP student my whole life. Slim pickings people when it came to people of color, especially black people. Girl, I was usually the only black person in my class most of the time. So we did theater together, and we were in this class together. So proximity bias, baby, a little bit, a little bit. It's so crazy because like he literally was. He should have gave me the ick multiple times. I should have gotten the ick multiple times from him. I did eventually get the ick. Ooh! He was like known for never wearing a belt, and so he would constantly like moon people and show his bare bright white ass. And yeah, I stuck beside him. Anyways, I had never dated anybody in high school, let alone middle school. I didn't get my first boyfriend until I was 21 years old. So I didn't really know how to flirt, and I also didn't know when I was flirted with, and I couldn't tell when boys liked me back. And I always just assumed they did, because if I tried hard enough, I could convince anyone to do anything. I'm very persuasive. I did debate. Okay, I was a very persuasive person. So I thought flirting was, I just need to impose myself on you. Eventually, once again, proximity of bias. You couldn't ignore me, baby. You couldn't ignore me. I mean, look at this gorgeous face. Even in high school, I was cute. Even with the acne. Even with the horrible makeup. I ate constantly, consistently. So I would force me on him. None of it sounds good. I used to we had to walk a similar path to get to our after school destinations to get picked up to go home, right? So I just started walking with him one day. He didn't ask me to. I just started doing it. I've done this technique a lot throughout high school. Never worked, but I kept telling myself, if I keep doing it, eventually it'll work. I would basically do this thing where towards the end of class, I would engage in a conversation with them, right? And I would force the conversation to go till the end of class, so we'll be forced to continue it outside of class, walking to our next destination. So that's what I would do, right? Every day after school, once I developed a crush on him, and I was like, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna go get it. I see it. I want it. I like it. I got it. It was one of those days where we were walking to our destination, right? And this guy came up to me and started hitting on me, which barely happened in high school. Barely. I think it happened barely. It's such a small amount that I can't even remember the amounts of times it happened. It was a small amount. Okay, so this guy comes up to me and he was like, "This your man's?" And I said, "No, he my friend, but like, I'm cool off you." See, and he was black. And when I would tell y'all, please, before you attack me, okay, you gotta understand, I was already locked in my head with this white boy, so I couldn't see the vision with the black boy. Also, I think he was short, and Maddie knew who she was from a young age. I never fuck with no man shorter than 5'10". I'm sorry, even in high school, I didn't do it. I could do it. In order to I was like, oh, this is the perfect time to claim what is mine, so I can prove to these people, don't come up to me, don't flirt with me, because I have a man. Right, I was using the situation to my advantage. So I was like, can I hold your arm so that guy doesn't, follow me and try to flirt with me again? So I hooked my arm around his arm and we walked like that the whole time to our destination, right? We get to the destination. It's time for us to part ways because my mom picked me up from a different area of school than his mom did. And so when I go to unhook my arm, I realized I had my arm hooked around this boy's book pack strap and then hooked around his arm, and then I was holding my own hand like this. So basically I had trapped him. He couldn't go nowhere. I had basically locked him in, literally, with me. Whole time I'm thinking we're just, sharing some affectionate, innocent touching. Babe, I trapped that man. He was in prison. I was holding him hostage. And so I was literally so embarrassed because I'm thinking I'm having a beautifully romantic moment with this man the whole time I'm holding him hostage. Delusion at its finest. And in that moment, that's when I had realized it. I said, oh my God. And I ran. Like, I took off. I ran to my mom's car, get in my mom's car, and I throw my backpack in there. I'm like, oh my God, Mom, that was so embarrassing. And I start like just blubbering about how embarrassing this situation was. She was like, calm down. What's wrong? Me and my mom are really close, so I did tell her about all my crushes in high school, and I still tell her about all my crushes and romantic endeavors as an adult. We locked in. That's twin. And so I was telling her, like, I was walking with Saltine and I thought we were like locking arms. Come to find out, I trapped this man low key. My arm was stuck in his like book bag, strapped this whole time, and I didn't even know. And she was like, oh my God, you are so awkward. She was like, you know what? I think you should watch The Awkward Black Girl on YouTube by Issa Rae. The lady who made Insecure? Yeah, it's on YouTube. It came out like years ago. I remember watching it back in the day. I think you would really like it because you are an awkward black girl. And I was like, what do you mean? But I knew I was, but it was just like insulting hearing it from my own mother. Like, oh my God, girl, you were supposed to tell me I'm the baddest. Not that I'm awkward. What? Anyways, I did just that. I went home and, I went to YouTube after I did my homework or after a nap. I don't know which one came first. Them after school naps used to hit different. And I went and I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is me. She is I. I am her. We are we. Like, this is my sister. I was like, Issa Rae, where have you been all my life? Like, where has this series been all of my life? And I was like, yeah, I am an awkward black girl. And there's nothing wrong with that. And ever since then, I've called myself an awkward black girl, the awkward black girl, for the sake of this show. So yeah, that's my own personal story of like why I call myself like the awkward black girl, why I am the awkward black girl. Issa, if you ever wanted to know round 2, your girl is available. I do have a background in theater. Now that I've told you why I'm the awkward black girl, right? Let me tell you why I even became the awkward black girl. So I was talking to my mom when I was like about to film this, and she was like, I don't want people to think that Saltine is the reason why you're an awkward black girl. I said, girl, no. He was just a catalyst for me finding this piece of media, but he is not the reason why I'm an awkward black girl. Literally, me and my mom were talking about, like, I was an extrovert who had social anxiety. I was super outgoing, but I was like shy and afraid of everything. But I was not willing to be limited by the world, but I knew that the world was very limiting. None of it made sense. How are you scared of the world, but you want to conquer the world at the same time? 1 + 1 is not equaling 2, baby. Right now it's equaling 4. Right? And that's how I became the awkward black girl. It's because my ambitions in the world in which I was living in and being perceived by were not meshing. That's why I created the definition I created. It's like I was trying to stick to the script that society had written for me, but I didn't want to. But I knew maybe it was in my best interest that I did. And so it was just always constantly clashing. On top of that, I do have anxiety and I have a diagnosed like mental health disorder. I have MDD. Outgoing, but I'm depressed. I'm outgoing, but I'm shy. I love people, but I'm terrified of people. It's just all and all jumbled up. It made me this awkward individual who found myself in awkward situations a lot of time because I wasn't even comfortable in the situations I was in, but I was forcing myself to be in them anyway. Like, baby, I knew that I probably shouldn't be there, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna take up space. Y'all gonna have to put up with me. But then I was like, I don't even know how to put up with them though. Woo! It was just a lot. Okay, it was a lot going on, right? And going back to the fact that I did theater for 7 years. I mean, theater is literally the prime fucking example. I had stage fright for the first few years that I did theater. I had terrible stage fright. I still did until the end. Now, once I actually was in the production, in the show, on stage, oh baby, it was giving thespian. Like, it gave I was meant for this. But auditions were horrible for me. I hated doing auditions. I would get such bad like anxiety doing auditions. I would practice for months, and by the time I got to the audition, I would completely flop because I was just a ball of anxiety, right? And when you're anxious and you're not calm, like your vocal cords are stressed. I did musical theater specifically for 7 years, but you have to do like 16 bars of music, right? When you're auditioning, which is about like, I don't remember, it's like a minute of singing basically. And so you always have to prepare a piece, and it was just always a mess. But hey, I used to be getting casted though. I don't know. I think they saw the vision. Maybe they just needed to meet the diversity quota, but I think they saw the vision, right? And so that's like one of the prime examples of why I'm the awkward black girl. Because imagine, I came from South Louisiana. I had an accent, a twang to my voice. I still do. I talked in the dialect in which where I'm from, and plus I'm black, so I was gonna speak in a dialect anyway. But I also spoke proper for where I came from, and that's why I'm the awkward black girl. In a white space, I'm still very black, right? Like, I still spoke very black to them and had a black accent, and also my literal fucking skin color, bitch. But when I was back home, I was told that I was super proper and that the city was getting to me, and that like I was acting like I was different or better than the people that I was like than the people that I grew up with. And it was just like, girl, what? Y'all are my people. Y'all keep me down to earth and sane and remind me of where I come from. I didn't feel that when I was back in the burbs. So it was, that's like one of the contributing factors why I feel like I'm an awkward black girl. It's like, and I know like mixed people be saying I'm too black for the black community, and wait, hold on, too white for the white community, I'm too black for the white community, whatever the fuck they be saying. But like, they just, we're not talking about the biracials today, please. We're not. I never want to talk about the biracials. But I'm saying is not like I never really had a place. Like, I do have a place. The black community, I always felt accepted by the black community. Like, that was never really the problem. But I just did things that were unconventional for being black, right? But the things I were doing, they didn't want black people in them doing that shit no way. And yeah, here I was doing it anyway. So that's like kind of the things that kind of contribute to the like me being an awkward black girl. It's an intersection with my blackness. Like, my blackness is always playing a hidden role into all of this awkwardness that's going on. But there's like this innate social contract when you're black and when you're a black woman, and I was not that. I did adhere to the social contract of being black in a lot of ways, and I didn't in other ways. And because my social script wasn't consistent, I found myself in a lot of awkward situations because I was trying to adhere to the script, but I didn't fuck with the script. But then sometimes I feel like adhering to the script would be in my best interest in certain spaces, especially white spaces, like adhering to more, I guess, white standards, more of like a very surface level sense, not in a, like, for example, changing the way that I speak. That was a huge thing for me when I was in theater. Was I always had to clean up my speech. I needed to get rid of my accent. I need to enunciate better. I need to speak clearer, which I understand, but that's not an issue for white people. Not all white people talk the same or consistently, especially in the South. But it was particularly a problem because I was a black Southerner, so the way that I spoke was very distinctly different. And so that's like one of the things where like I was kind of forced to like assimilate in some ways, was having to change the way that I spoke, my accent, learning to code switch. And I used to code switch so much that I started to forget what is my actual true voice. And it wasn't until later in life and it's going into college that I started actually forcing myself to speak more the way my family would speak. And I mean, when I was at home I would always like speak like that, but when I was like in front of others, I always felt this innate pressure to not speak like that, and I started to realize I ain't fuck with that. So then I started speaking more how I would speak at home, outside of home. And I had to go through this like whole like culture crisis almost, because I felt like I lost a sense of my identity. I'm already Black American. I'm already so far removed from my identity, being the descendant of slaves. But the one thing that kind of keeps me whole is the fact that I'm from Louisiana. Louisiana is like this distinct culture in itself, this distinct, Creole culture, and one of those things that's kept me connected to home was my accent, was my dialect, was the slang that I spoke. So then I purposely just started talking hella black, like, but like regionally specific, Louisiana. These are kind of like some of the experiences that inform me being an awkward black girl, and I feel like a lot of other awkward black girls come from very similar backgrounds. You're a black girl who's very in tune with your blackness, put into a predominantly non-black environment. For me, that's being moved from South Louisiana to suburbia North Texas, and you're trying to find this balance between, you know, the opportunity to explore things that weren't previously afforded to people who looked like you because you were black or because of the place you were from, trying to balance that with your blackness, trying to seize the day in a world that doesn't want you to do that, but knowing the importance of doing that, and trying to find the perfect balance of like being who you are but sticking to the social script because that's what's expected of you. And then also, like I said, when you add those other tones of things like neurodivergence and mental illness and things like that, it makes it even more complicated. And that's why I am the awkward black girl that I am today. And if you're an awkward black girl and you maybe don't exactly resonate with that, but you resonate with the overall tone, then yay, this is a perfect show for you. But if you resonate with my exact story, baby, comment below. We could be best today, right now. I did write a little something to wrap up kind of how I feel. Through all of these experiences, I'm an awkward black girl because I'm unapologetically black and white spaces, proudly participating in industries and hobbies that say I'm not wanted and doing what black people aren't supposed to do. But it's truly defined by the fact that when I try to tone it down or when people are expecting me to adhere to certain strictures, I don't, and it gets awkward. Or like when I try, I fail most of the time and it gets awkward. Like, and that's what makes me awkward. It's like I genuinely have a mental disconnect from what the world is expecting from me, out of like A, just genuinely not understanding it, but also B, just even when I do understand it, I'm just not going for it. Like, I don't understand why I gotta do this. I don't like it, so I'm not. And if that make me wrong, then fuck it, I don't want to be right. I feel like I never really tell people anything about myself on the internet because I think y'all are all very off. Like, I think most people on the internet are very weird people, but I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself. So yes, I am 22 years old. I'm a Leo, big motherfucking Leo, big Leo. Because I was born like smack dab in the middle of Leo season, and I also have a Leo stellium, which I think makes a lot of sense about me. I will not give you my full chart because some people are weird, but I'll give you my big three. I'm a Leo Sun, Cancer Moon, Aquarius rising. I feel like that's the most iconic combination of like big three. Currently working as a fashion designer in the DFW area. Yes, I do live in Dallas. Please stop coming here, y'all. I'm so sick of there being traffic all day, every day, especially when I gotta go into actual Dallas and I gotta get on 75, or when I gotta go on 35. Because when I used to go to my alma mater is UNT. Go Eagles! Shout out to my UNT alum or people who are currently attending. I love my alma mater. I'm actually gonna go back there for my master's because another fun fact about me, I'm going to back to get my master's in art history. When I used to have to drive from UNT back to Dallas because my mom lives here, oh my god, 35 roller coaster accidents every day. I mean, there's accidents every day in Texas regardless because people can't drive, but particularly on 35, horrible. But yes, I live in the D, but I'm born and originally from South Louisiana, from this really small town between BR and New Orleans. And fun fact, my cousin is the mayor of my hometown, and my family has a day dedicated to us. It's in June, I believe. Growing up, I used to want to be like a pop star, an actor, fashion designer, and a doctor. Like, girl, I wanted to do everything. Like, I wanted to be a lawyer at one point. Eventually, I ended up landing on the arts because I found that's where my true heart and passion is. Even though I did get the "that's not reliable" chat, and "you're gonna be broke" chat, just for me to graduate with a job offer. Yeah. And we will have a whole episode dedicated to my career because there are people who want to know like how I did what I did. Simple answer is I'm the baddest. I'm the best at everything. Like, I came out the womb eating y'all up. Like, face card, there. Brains, there. Like, determination, there. Like, I came out the womb knowing I was about to take this motherfucker over. But honestly, I low-key want to gatekeep telling y'all how to do that, because now everybody trying to get into fashion because they realized comp style wasn't working out for them, and their market's oversaturated. So they like, ooh, what field is undersaturated? And everybody's like, oh, get into fashion tech, get into fashion marketing. No, leave us the fuck alone. You didn't shit it on the arts for the how many decades now, telling people not to pursue the arts because they were going to be a broke starving artist, and now you're realizing we're the only market that got job openings consistently, and now you want to get in the wave. Don't piss me off. You're trying to get into arts now because you're realizing, oh wait, they consistently have job openings, particularly in the fashion field. Fuck you. Anyways, one day in this life I'll stop being so aggressive. Today's not that day. I don't think, actually, no, I think I need to be more aggressive. Actually, my goal for this year to be more of a bitch. Like, bitches win. And though I'm a black bitch, so it's different. Like, I don't have the same connotation as if I was white. I don't really give a fuck. I'm gonna be a bitch. Oh my god, y'all, when you start being a bitch, life gets so much easier. Life gets so much more fun. You have so much more freedom. That's literally on my 2025 vision board. Like, be a bitch. Be a bitch. Be mean. Be the villain. Purposely. Life gets so much more fun that way. So y'all may be wondering, why do I have this Tower of Dork Diary books sitting here? It's because these books were actually the first piece of media where I identified with an awkward girl. Now, the main character in this book, Nikki, she's white. Canonically, I'm pretty sure she's white. Her other characters in this book are black, but the main character is white. The author, however, is black. This is my first time being exposed to dork media, but not necessarily specific to black girls. But I found that a lot of me and my black friends growing up, we really enjoyed these books because we resonated a lot with Nikki. Maybe not in a physical, cultural, ethnic sense, but in general personality, we really resonated. I should have mentioned this in the beginning of like the required reading section, but I felt like the Issa Rae point was just more important. But this is another thing that's kind of required reading for me. I feel like all the awkward black girls read the Dork Diary series. I own 12 of them. I haven't read these for these last two. I got these as a gift for my 19th birthday. Yes, I own all of my original copies from 1 through 12. I even own 3.5. Do you bitches even know about 3.5? Yeah, these books, these did something for my soul growing up. They still do. That's why I kept them all. You might be like, why haven't you donated these or given them away? Because this is my childhood in book form. Like, this is my identity in book form. This and the Misadventure of Awkward Black Girl, those two things together made me who the person I am today. That's why I refuse to give these books up. I will be passing them down to my future daughters. Children. We don't discriminate in this household. Okay, we're getting off topic. So that means it's time for me to get into Darius' favorite. Yeah. I ate that! A big part of my identity as an awkward black girl is all my hobbies and interests, because it's things that a lot of black people don't do. Well, now black people do. Of course, there's black people who do them. But historically, when I was a kid, there was not a lot of black girls who were into certain things like I was. It just started becoming popular. Okay? Not a lot of black girls were bookworms. When I was growing up, not many black girls was in that library like I was in that library. Not because, I'm not saying I was doing it because I was better than them. A lot of people just didn't have access to literature. I'm not saying I'm better than nobody because I was able to read. That was not something that was expressed as something of importance to a lot of black kids, especially a lot of black girls. So I'm very fortunate that this was a hobby I picked up and was encouraged to me by my mother and my grandmother. That being said, a lot of black girls weren't bookworms growing up, except me and my few other black friends that I had. So we are going to talk about books. So last year my goal was to read 5 books. Y'all gonna be like, bitch, 5 books? Do you even read? Sometimes. Year before that, my goal was 10 books and I only read 2. So I decided to start having more realistic goals for myself. The last book that I read of 2024 took me 6 months to read. I know the Dallas Public Library was mad as shit. It took me 6 months to return that book. So I read 5 books last year. I only own the physical copy of 2 of these books, and I don't feel like getting them. And those books would be The Children of Blood and Bone and Monday's Not Coming. The other 3 books I read, I supported my local library and checked them out. You should support your local library. Go get a library card. It's free. It's free. Oh my god, you don't know how much media you have free access to when you get a library card. Oh my god, let me go on a tangent. I love the public library. The reason why I am a bookworm is because of the public library. Okay, let me tell you why. Basically, growing up, me and my brother grew up during the time where we're starting to transition into needing to use the internet and things like typing and computers and stuff like that for homework. So we frequented the library because we had like a really old box computer that just was like not reliable. We didn't own a printer, whatever. So after school, me and my brother would go to the library for so he could do his homework, and I would sit and just read books all day. And eventually my grandma ended up getting like a library card on my behalf so I can like check out books and take them home. I eventually started, I would like go to the programs that they would host at the library. So they'll be like, one time there was a puppet show, they would put on movies. One time they did this workshop where they taught us how to make zines, little books as they called them. And I would go to those programs even over the summer. And I went to those programs over the summer even after like I moved to Texas. I would visit my grandma every summer for 3 months, and I would still go to those programs up until I was like 12 years old. And yes, I would be the oldest in the crowd. I never gave a fuck. Never gave a fuck. And so that's like actually why I'm a bookworm. A huge part of it is because of the public library. I didn't buy all the books that I read growing up. Most of them were checked out. Now I do own a significant portion of childhood books that like, everybody buys for their kids when they're babies and toddlers. But majority of the books that I read throughout my entire life, I checked out from the public library or from my school library when that became an option available to me. So I love the public library. Support your local library. It's literally free. Go do it immediately if you are able. So the first book that I read was Children of Blood and Bone by, I can't say her name, so I don't want to fuck it up. So I'm putting it here. Hey, hey, hey! I love fantasy. Love fantasy down. I particularly love African fantasy. I feel like African fantasy always has such a layer of depth that other fantasies just don't have. Like African fantasies, I'm sorry, they eat all the other fantasy subgenres up. I'm sorry. If the option is an African fantasy or any other body's fantasy novel, I'm picking the African fantasy. Actually, the first African fantasy novel I read was Akata Witch in my sophomore year of high school. I don't remember the author, but that was my first introduction to African fantasy, and I was like, now wait a minute. They did not only nibble chew, but they ate, like they devoured even. So I've always been on the search for more African fantasies, but they're kind of few and far in between. Now I find that in recent years, with more and more just like authors of color being put on the forefront, they're starting to become more of a known thing, a more like substantial subgenre. So I definitely will be reading more African fantasies in the future. But yeah, that was my second 5 out of 5 read that I read last year. I'm gonna say this: none of these books have lower than a 3.5, and it's because I don't read bad books. I do a lot of research on books before I decide which ones I'm gonna read. And you mean, like, how do you do research on it without it getting spoiled for you? I just look at what other people are saying. I like to watch like spoiler-free reviews where they're describing like the plot of the book, and I can tell easily from a plot of a book if it's going to be for me or if it's not going to be for me, because I'm very particular about the type of literature that I read. I'm a person who requires a lot of depth to my literature. I can't read surface level frou bullshit. I remember I made a TikTok DNFing Take a Hit Danny Brown. I had to DNF that book because like it had like literally no substance. I couldn't take it. I didn't really like the writing style. It was just like I didn't understand. And like I was so excited to read that book and eventually the series because everybody talked about like how good it is. I was like, girl, this ain't got no substance. I am bored. Like, and it was just like I didn't like the writing. So I need books that really intellectually stimulate me. But I need there to be something to read in between the lines. Like I need substance. I need something to bite into that I could sink my teeth into. That being said, I immediately know based off of a book's a description if it's gonna be that for me. So that's why I don't really read bad books. It's very rare that I read a book that I have to DNF. I'm so excited to see what the future books hold, and I know they're turning them into movies. I will definitely be like watching them when they come out, and this will be the first like book to movie adaptation where I have actually read the book before the movie comes out. So second book that I read that last year was Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. This was my number one, for last year. So Children of Blood and Bone would be my number 2. Monday's Not Coming is my number 1. That's like a 10 out of 5. Baby, it broke the scale. That book was literally so ingenious in so ways, and the content and the subject matter is very depressing, but I was just really impressed by the prose, especially because this is a book taken from the perspective of like a middle school, early high school age student, and yet it was a story that was so complex despite being from the point of view of someone in their adolescence. They didn't dumb down the language too much, but they still made it a bit relatable and accurate to the age. And I really like how this book didn't dumb down the intelligence of the main character either because of their age. So I was really impressed by the writing of this book. I found a lot of books that are from the point of view of middle schoolers or teenagers nowadays. This used to not be a problem when I was actively a middle school in like high schooler reading books about other middle schoolers and high schoolers. I felt like this is a newfound problem where a lot of modern authors are trying to take too many liberties with their language in order to better match the descriptors of the demographic, like of the different demographics they're writing about, and it ends up just being such a huge disconnect, and the prose ends up reading really awfully. But I found this book did a really good job at kind of altering the language a little bit to make it accurate to a teenager, specifically where they're from. But they did it so successfully, and just like, believe kids. Children are so smart and so bright. Believe kids. Oh my god, that book had me on the edge. I think that's probably the fastest I read a book last year was Monday's Not Coming. So that was my number 1. Number 3, and the fourth book I read last year, but it's at the number 3 spot, is going to be Thin Girls by Diana Clark. I actually got this recommendation from Lily Reese, which is also As Told by Kenya. She owns a reading channel. And so I'm very picky about who I take book recommendations from because, like I said, not everybody's an intellectual reader. When I was watching a video and she mentioned this book, my ears immediately perked up. I went on my library's online catalog, saw they had it, ordered it, got it. This book was such a beautiful like exploration of like sisterhood, queerness, trigger warning, like disordered eating. And what I loved about this book was the casual queerness of it. There's another book that actually I'm just not realizing 3 out of the 5 books I read last year had casual queerness, which I'm gonna explain what that means in a little bit. But I love books that have more casual queerness, like very human way of talking about kind of like mental health disorders, talking about like queerness, talking about the body, and like because she had a lot of conversations about like her body in relation to her eating disorder, and like the way that her eating disorder wasn't directly correlated to necessarily not liking her body, but wanting control, wanting to be liked, wanting to fit in, etc., etc. I thought that was such a well-rounded way of discussing eating disorders that was beyond surface. And I feel like a lot of conversations around eating disorders don't really reach that level of depth or complexity. So that's like one thing I immediately have to like applaud about the book. It was a really good read. Like thinking back on it, it's a book I would easily read again. In the number 4 spot, but it was the last book I read of the year, the one that took me 6 months, was Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. Now this book, you gotta hold on, because it was starting off real slow and I was starting to not see the point, and it was just real sad for a really long time, like a really, really long time in the book. I was starting not to see the point, but eventually it just wrapped up so beautifully, and I was like, wow, like I relate so much to kind of like her plight and her main goal throughout the whole book. And though I'm not someone who dealt with a mother with addiction, and I didn't go through as much trauma as she had throughout the book, I just related so much to the whole thing of like wanting to save your family but having to save yourself first, and kind of like that battle between that, wanting to be in tune where you're from but having to sacrifice a little bit of that in order to do better and get better for your family. And it was just so realistic, talking about like the sacrifices a lot of young Black girls have to make in order to uplift them, not only themselves but their family. And also sometimes the sacrifice of like, sometimes you have to uplift yourself and you're the only person that gets uplifted in the end. Now that ended up not being the case in this book, but sometimes in life it looks that way for a very long time, like you're the only person you've uplifted, because uplifting your family is a whole nother battle. And it was just, I just deeply related to her plight, was so highly relatable to me as a Black person that I couldn't stand to give it anything less than like a 3.5. Book in the number 5 spot, but it was the third book I read last year, was Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Wong. I think this is like another like 3.5 read. This book is like a little bit of body horror, thriller, suspense. It's like one of those things that doesn't go into like a really strict, over like encompassing genre, but it's just about this girl who is working at this beauty shop that has a lot of secrets, and they doing a lot of grimy stuff for the sake of this beauty. And by the end, her body ends up being like completely morphed, shifted, changed, and disabled in some ways, in the sake of beauty. And I think this was just a really interesting exploration of kind of the things people do in search for beauty, but then also like kind of the complexities of that, with her also being the child of an immigrant, and kind of be somebody who had this huge like prestige and expectation to her when she was younger, and now she like stays in somebody's basement and works this like rinky dinky like retail job and everything. So I really love those complexities. Once again, this is a book that had Cash O'Quinn. The only thing was like they like rushed through the ending of the book, and I felt like if they would have given me like 50 more pages, I would have like ranked it a little bit higher. But it was still a really good book. Like, I just like when books put a subject that seemingly seems very plain and in your face, and just like dissects it in a way that you may not have like thought about it before. In this case, they use like a very extreme example of what, you know, body modification can look like in order for to have beauty, and like the money complex that kind of goes behind that, in order to illustrate that point. But I still think it was beautifully done. So those were all 5 books that I read, ranked in order of kind of like how much I enjoyed them. But like I said, nothing was below a 3.5 for me, because I only read good books. This year I'm planning to read 7 books. On top of that, I'm planning to read more Black classics. I'm actually currently reading The Color Purple with my mommy, and then the next book I'll be reading is Their Eyes Were Watching God, which I saw that my library does have available, so I will be reserving very soon. Those were all my spoiler-free reviews. If you want me to get like more in-depth reviews about the books that I read, just let me know. I can always make separate videos on them, because these all go on the same channel, so I don't really mind. But I love reading. I love books. I love mental stimulation. I used to think I wanted to write my own book. No. There's so many books out there that are already beautiful and great. I have nothing to contribute. I have nothing to contribute. I have nothing more to say. The fact that I am even speaking right now, it's a feat. Like, the world is so vast. A lot has already been said. Next thing is this wig. So actually, I'm not a wig girly. I got this wig because I was going to a holiday party at my job. My job's corporate holiday party last month, and I was like, I really want to switch up my look, and I want to give something that the people won't really expect. People expect braids from me, my natural hair, you know. Let me give them a bust down middle part, jet black, you know. But I gave them yaki. But this wig is actually 20 inches, but it gets bust down on me. It's because I have a really short torso. I love that I could plop this on my head and keep it pushing, and the wig and like the lace doesn't give like lace. And sometimes when I really want it to look laid, I just put some Got2 bean and just in the center and hold it with a rat tail and blow dry it if I really want it to look like melted and seamless. I threw this on my hair growing up. I combed it a little bit, and these curls are 2 weeks old. And people said Yaki don't hold curl. Girl. I would. I'm gonna link the wig below. Give me my money though. It will be an affiliate link. Some way, somehow, I'm gonna figure it out, because I want my fucking money. This wig is from Beauty Forever. It is the 7x5 bye knots Yaki straight wig, 20 inches. Yes. They have a drawstring version of it. I really recommend the drawstring version if you have a really small head like me. When I tell you, I have the elastic band in this thing pulled to the max. The max. sometimes it still feels loose. Like, that's how small my head is. Okay, I know most people like worry about the wigs being too small for their head, like their head being too big. No, the wigs are too big, and my head's too small. Unique problem that a lot of people don't have, but I do. So it's hard to find like wig advice about for people who have small head, because most people have the opposite problem. But yeah, like I feel real cute, and I'm actually somebody who doesn't really prefer myself in black hair, despite that being my natural hair color. But I don't know, this makes me feel extra cute. I'm really loving this wig. This has converted me into wigs, I think, officially. I went through a synthetic wig phase in high school. Horrible time, horrible. I looked a mess. But self-expression. My mom used to just let me do anything when it came to self-expression. It had to be age appropriate, of course. That's when she'll step in. But other than that, especially if I was paying for it with my own money, my mom used to just let me do anything. And she said, "I hate your wig phase. I always hate your wig phases, because I've been through it one time before, earlier in college. It was also bad, but that's because I bought a really really cheap wig from AliExpress for like $100. Never again." My mom's like, "I always hate your wig phases. They always kind of look a mess. I don't really like you in wigs, but I be trying to be supportive." But even my mom says this is my best wig. She said this is the best your wig phase has ever looked. And I actually really do like this wig. And that's how I know I ate. My mom's a brutally honest woman. If I look chopped, she will tell me. Maybe not in that moment, but eventually. But the fact that she genuinely is complimenting me and saying she likes the wig, yeah, it ain't. Well, the next thing I want to talk about is actually not a favorite, it's a hobby. So let's move on to the next segment called Daria's Hobbies. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Y'all like my theme songs? Made by yours truly. Not with much forethought, but made by yours truly. Hey, I am starting a garden. Okay, so basically, this is what happened. When Trump got elected, I said, "Oh, groceries about to get real expensive." Most of our food is imported. Buki, he trying to raise tariffs and shit, and all you dumb motherfuckers don't even know how tariffs work for real. So y'all was like, "Yay, no." So I was like, "Damn, let me just grow my own food." I've been wanting to do a garden forever. Like my grandma used to like have little green onion plants growing up, and I remember thinking like, "This shit is so cool. You can grow food by yourself." Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the sound of that, but it always seemed really unattainable because I live in an apartment, right? But we do have a balcony, so I'm gonna make it do what it do, baby. We gonna figure it out. I'm just scared about my plants not getting enough sunlight, but I won't be officially constructing the garden, my container balcony garden, until beginning of February. Because that's most of the plants that I want to plant don't need to be planted until mid February. So I'm gonna get all the supplies beginning of February, kind of get everything set up, get my soil set up, get it fertilized and built up the nutrients with like some food scraps. But excitingly, I actually started my first like seedling type thing today. So you could make potatoes from potatoes. Like you could plant potatoes from potatoes, but you need to grow the eyes of the potato first, and it does take a couple of weeks, and it takes maybe you have to place it in the sun for a while. So I placed my potatoes outside in a plastic bag because we do have squirrels. And the squirrels do climb. I know that because I used to live in my walls. We're gonna get into that later. I'm really, really excited, and I heard potatoes are super easy to grow, so I'm really excited for that. I'm also gonna be growing things like onions, broccoli, bell pepper, spinach, tomatoes. Once my official garden starts up, I'm definitely gonna be taking y'all into the garden with me. But for now, I can only really tell you about it because there's not much going on. Alrighty, well, that's pretty much everything I had to talk about today. Let me think if there's anything else. Oh wait, let me tell you about the squirrels. Okay, you may be like, "Girl, what you mean squirrels was in your wall?" First moved into this apartment. If you go onto our balcony and you look to the right, you can see a little edging of the roof. There was a hole, right? There was a hole. And so squirrels basically would go in this hole, and then they would get into the walls, and you could hear them like scratching around and moving and shit. So you'll be minding your business, and then you hear somebody scratching in your wall. If I didn't know that we had squirrels on our walls, I fully thought this house was possessed. Like I wanted to get the fuck ASAP. And I would just be scared that one day they would just pop up. Like I would just open my room door and there was a squirrel in there. But then when they closed up the hole, I was scared because I was like, what if there's dead squirrels in my wall now? Well, obviously we know that isn't the case because we didn't smell anything. But that was like my biggest fear. Like there are dead squirrels in my wall. you know, the more I connect the dots, they have a lot of suable offenses, but I digress. This is the first episode of the Aqua Black Girl Webshow, hosted by yours truly, Dario Wesley. I hope y'all enjoyed it. This is like a more introductory episode, so it's a lot of just background about me, and like I said, required reading and try to really understand what an awkward black girl even is. We have to lay the foundation. We have to lay the ground. We have to do the groundwork. See if you fuck with me, or if I fuck with you, because I have to fuck with y'all too. Because what if I don't like you? What if I don't like y'all? I know you're my audience, and technically you're the people who give me views, but I can still not like you. Some of y'all are weird. But I guess that's kind of the point. That's kind of the audience that I'm attracting, because this is called the Awkward Black Girl Web Show. I didn't think that one through. I said let's proceed. We'll see y'all probably next week. I don't know. I hope next week, y'all. I'm going to New York in less than a month at this point now. I only have concepts of an itinerary and concepts of plans of what I'm going to do when I'm there. If you stay in NYC in the Manhattan area, because that's where I'll be staying, and I'm going to plan to hopefully take a day trip to Williamsburg to go do some vintage shopping. But if you know, like, truly the best of the best spots to hit up in Manhattan during that time of year, I'm going the first week of February. Please let me know. Oh, next episode's the relationship episode. And we will be talking about white men and interracial relationships. If you hate Loving V, Virginia, that might not be the episode for you. But it's not what you think it's about. But yeah, that's what the next episode's about, because we do have to talk about the white man epidemic in the awkward black girl space. Is it wrong? Is it right? Let's talk about it. See y'all next time. Bye.